Hi. So on the weekend, I was just talking to Mike before I went and picked up a secondhand chair from a couple, and just in conversating with them, was talking about the fact that I live off grid, and they had a really big solar system, but they again, and this is a story that keeps coming up this winter, have their solar system keeps failing them. And it's really interesting because, as you and I have discussed, I have a 500 watt system that doesn't fail me because I don't use that much. I guess it was from growing up off grid. I've been trained well by my mum to be energy efficient. But that's a repetitive conversation that you and I have about being energy efficient is actually the best way to go. It's not how big your solar system is. That's the first step. And so you are now in your second house that you've taken off grid. So maybe it'd be good just to walk through those steps about what you recommend.
It was like the first time in Sydney. I wasn't in the industry then when I wanted to take it off grid, and I kept getting installers to come around and do me a price and quote me up and want to take the house off grid. Everyone said you can't do it. No one gave me a reason why. And then I met this mad guy. He was like a mad scientist at a permaculture course I did, and he just said to me, it was simple. Like when he said it to me, I was just like, it's so easy. He said, you just don't have enough roof space for how much energy you use. And I was like, so I'm just going to reduce my energy consumption. So, our story of the money we spent, just briefly, I spent zero money. We were using 30 kilowatt hours a day. And without spending any money, we dropped the energy usage from 30 kilowatt hours a day down to, I think we got up to 18 without spending a cent. We spent $1,000 and we installed an energy monitor and some LED lights. And that took about another 4 kilowatt hours a day or something. I took it down to about 18 kilowatt hours a day on average. And then the next thing that happened, we basically upgraded all the appliances. Just lucky at that point in time. My brother-in-law, we were living together with him, and he decided to move out. Him and his partner moved out, and we got to keep the house ourselves. So we were like, "You take everything electrical." So we just kept the lounge and the table. I think it's about all we kept, and gave us a great opportunity to go out and just spend the money and upgrade to energy efficient appliances. And there was a period of time we did that, and they still lived with us. So we got a chance to still live, four of us live in the house and see how much energy we're using. That then reduced the energy consumption down to about 7 kilowatt hours a day, maybe 8 with the four of us living there. And the rest, to go off grid and get rid of the rest of it, we spent close to $30,000 to sort of get rid of 7 kilowatt hours a day on a full proper off grid solar system to get rid of the last amount.
So before we talk about your current house, and I do also want to flag that we're going to be talking more in depth next week about energy efficient appliances. I think there's 3 questions that I had. One is about that energy. I think I've got the term wrong. The energy monitor that you said you installed.
Yep.
So if you could talk to that a bit, but also, I guess there's 2 different things, isn't there? Like there's practices and it's behaviour, and we were talking about that earlier. Like that's a hard thing to put for people to change for several different reasons, but things that don't cost money. So there's things that cost money that can help you be more energy efficient, and then there's things that don't cost money. So if you could talk about the energy monitor, and then maybe we'll move on to the other things.
Yeah, well, installing the energy monitor, it was, if you think about it, would you drive a car without a fuel gauge?
Have done that, but it's pretty hard.
Yes, of course you've done it. So I'm renowned for running out of fuel in cars and electric vehicles. So I push things to the limit. So I like to see how much you can get out of something. But it's funny, very few people would run no fuel gauge.
Yeah.
But we drive our houses without a fuel gauge. So, a fuel gauge for most people in their houses, they get a bill every 3 months. And it's like, and the thing without having that monitoring is every 3 months you get a bill, and your bill might be through the roof. You're like, what happened? Because you've lived 3 months, you don't remember what energy you use on what day. So putting in the energy monitoring, which we'll go into one I'll show you at my current house at the moment, I'll share my screen in a minute. But basically, having that fuel gauge, it was something really good that you could actually sit on the bench in the kitchen and just go, with this stuff floodlights that would, the sensor never worked properly at the back. The house is double story, so you'd walk at the back and the lights would never come on. So you'd flick them on manually, and they pulled a load of energy, about 300 watts or something like that. These are LED floodlights, and when you're inside the house, you couldn't see that they were on. When we had the energy monitor installed, was sitting on the bench, you'd actually walk past and go, oh, the lights are on out the back, and you'd go flick the lights off because you could see it on the fuel gauge.
So does it tell you what is being used and then how much it's using? Like what is using the energy and how much it's using? Because I've never seen one. I don't know what they look like.
Yeah.
I'm rusty off grid.
So you just get flat batteries and then go out and you don't even have a generator to start with.
Actually, Mum just bought me a generator. I haven't got it out of the box yet, but it's pretty exciting. I feel like I'm upgrading.
Awesome. So, do you have a battery charger though?
No.
I think we've got a spare 24 volt one at the shop you can have. So
yeah, great.
I think your system's 24 volt. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I think we've got a spare charger here. Mate, share my screen. I'll show you.
Cool.
The one I first originally used back in the day was from a company called Effigy. It was just literally you put it in the meter box, and it just told you how much, pretty much the dollar amount. It showed you the dollar amount or how many watt hours or kilowatt hours that we were using. They were a couple of $100. You can self-install them yourself if you get confidence with those ones. Now these ones here are a bit more sophisticated. The newer ones we use these days. This is from a company called Solar Analytics. Now, Solar Analytics, I'll give you a bit of a rundown.
So this is your current house, yeah, that we're looking at.
Yeah, this is my house right now, and we took on a challenge with this house when we brought it. We're on the south side of the hill. We have a load of, and I thought, we could be completely self-sufficient on energy, from solar and batteries, and have an electric car. And the reality is, we've got some serious shading issues, and without the sun, it's really hard to be off grid. So, we've been in this house for 4 years, and the first year we lived in it, we just had some monitoring in the house, and we used, just trying to heat the house, we were using 100 kilowatt hours per day, and we're doing tests. We're using bar heaters, like the bar heaters you get from Bunnings and places like that.
Yeah.
So we're using a bucket load of energy in the house. Had paper thin walls, and the glass was really thin. So it was a really cold house. It was like struggle. And so we wanted to do this whole house fully electricity. So we wanted to see if we could heat this house from air conditioning rather than have a fireplace. Now, sort of for me with a fireplace, if you have the access to wood, whacking a fireplace, it's great. Wood is actually a really sustainable way to heat your home. It's actually more beneficial for the environment to burn the timber than let it rot in the ground. It creates more methane gases when timber rots in the ground than burning it. So,
I think we need to have. Let's talk about that coming up soon. That'd be a great conversation, because I don't think many people know that. Because I have that conversation a lot with people out where I live when I have burn piles, which I burn in winter, because I don't want them lying around in summer when the big bushfires come. But people tell me that it's worse for me to do that than just to let it rot in the ground. So let's have that conversation soon.
We will. And there's some really good facts from an Australian company that make a really energy efficient fireplace we could talk about.
Right.
There'd be another product. And so the challenge when we wanted to do this house completely, because in Sydney, it was really easy to get the house down to 6 kilowatt hours a day in the middle of winter. Winter's always the hardest part because you've got shortest days, so you're living on batteries the most. But Sydney was actually really easy to be off-grid and self-sufficient from solar. We had very little shading issues. We did have a few, but it was very little compared to what we deal with these days. And we had a fireplace. So in winter, we cooked from our fire. The fire kept the house warm. When we installed the fireplace, we really wanted to get one with a wetback so we could boost our hot water.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in Sydney, it's not a common thing done, so we could not find an installer that could help us actually do the wetback. So we were sort of with the fire, so we had gas back up in winter for our hot water, but we cooked had an oven. We cooked on top of the fireplace in winter. So literally our solar system became lights, TVs and fridges. It didn't really run much at all except my electric motorbike. So now with this house not having a fireplace and we're trying to heat the place in winter, it's a real challenge. And like I said, we're on the south side of the hill. We have loads of shading, which maybe we'll get some footage and we'll do a full story of this new house, of the challenge we had. But you can see here, this is all the circuits we've monitored. So I'll get rid of everything. So we can sort of go in a bit of a deep dive of what we got on the go here. So this right now. Now this is I think it's a 12 or a 13 kilowatt solar system with panels on the roof, and we have a 9 kilowatt inverter or something. Changes all the time, my place. The boys put things on up, testing things. But yeah, we've got over 10 kilowatts of panels. You can have a look here. The peak it gets in the middle of winter is about 4 kilowatts. So you can see it's ridiculous, basically. Like, it's a really badly underperforming solar system. We'll go back yesterday.
But that's because of the shade, yeah? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got a solar system that has we use Solar Edge. It's got optimizers on it everywhere, but the house is really heavily shaded. I was up on the roof the other day having a look and just monitoring and trying to plan and just think, how can I do this? And I'm still going to give it one more year before we install a fireplace. I think I've got a bit of a plan where I can create enough energy from that shaded roof and to be able to be self-sufficient with my battery. Because right now, for us, we don't use our batteries. We literally, right now I don't have any batteries installed in my house. I've pulled them out for the time being. In summer, we install batteries and we're always testing stuff at home. So in summer, it's really easy. And I'll just give you a quick example. We'll just jump here. Let's go back to, Australia Day is normally a pretty good day. Good old Australia Day. It's normally a good day. Cranking solar. Here we go. It's this same solar system.
Yeah.
It sits at about 7 kilowatts, 8 kilowatts.
Yeah, right. It's like double the performance.
It is. So, and you can see that solar curve there, like to pretty much at 9 o'clock in the morning there at Australia Day. Here we go. At 9 o'clock, it's almost doing 5 kilowatts.
Yeah.
And it just does that all the way in the afternoon till, 5 p.m. In summer, at 5 p.m., we're still running the air conditioner if we're running the aircon directly from the solar system. We haven't even got into our batteries yet. Our aircon pulls about 1,300 watts in summer. So really, we're still on solar until about 5:45 p.m. before we sort of kick into batteries and we lose that sun there. So
is it your air conditioner that uses the most power? Most energy?
In the appliance in our house, yes. Well, let's turn it on. So let's have a look. So the aircon's running right now.
Yeah.
You can see it gets turned on. It jumps up to 2.5 kilowatts there at 6:30 in the morning. Kids obviously turned on this morning. And then as the day goes on, it sort of drops down and gets less and less and less. So it's using about 1.5 kilowatts to heat the house. So of a day here, you can see, we've got enough to, right now we could be heating the house and charging batteries. The other thing we've got at the moment, we're doing a test with our hot water. So we've just got the hot water on normal right now. We don't have any tricky things on it. It just comes on whenever it wants. So as you see there, obviously I would have had a shower this morning, left and gone to work, and then the hot water would have come on and heated up. And then the hot water's come back on in the middle of the day. Go back to yesterday and see how many times. You see there how many times a day the hot water comes on.
It's almost like an artwork.
Yeah. So in summer, let's go back to summer. Did we have this product installed? Just go then. No, it wasn't installed then. We'll go back. What's another July? It would have been the summer before. We're testing a product, guaranteed. It would have been in here. Here we go. So you can see this here. You can see our hot water only comes on there in the morning.
Mm.
So we use this product called Catch Power, which is an Australian invention, which is made at Inverell in Australia. So what it does here, it only heats your hot water from solar. So, and you can see that it's popped on the afternoon again. So it only uses your solar energy, excess solar, to heat your hot water. And as you can see, that we weren't, the hot water system wasn't coming on 20 times a day, basically. Where it is right now, because the thermostat, the minute the hot water gets cold, the thermostat comes on and heats hot water. And that's the test we're doing at the moment. We've removed this product and we're just going to disconnect and we'll do a bit of a test to see, how it goes.
So let's talk about what people can do. So next week we'll talk about appliances more in depth, because I think that'll be really useful. But like what type of behaviour changes do you think people can do just to start, so we think about these houses that have these really big solar systems that can provide ample amount of power. Like that's what we were talking about before. So my sister has one of those solar systems, but she never runs short of power because, like me, we grew up trained to be really energy efficient because we didn't have a solar system and we lived off batteries and those types of things. So it's just ingrained in us. But like, what about these people that do have great solar systems that are ample, but are like, then they're not managing the power that's being produced? What can they do other than changing their appliances? Because we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, well, I think that it's just power. And if you have a look here, I sort of turned everything back on there. Now, what have we got here? We've got some PowerPoints that crank on there. I don't know what that is. It comes up, uses some energy in the middle of the day there. Get rid of that hot water. Oh, it's a fridge. Have a look at our fridge. Our fridge pulls 1.5 kilowatts when it comes on. And see, overnight here it does this 1.5 kilowatt. It's understanding what uses energy, when to use it. And a lot of people, especially off-grid, what happens off-grid is when your batteries are full, your panels turn off, basically. So unless you turn something on and use it, now if we were off-grid here completely at my house and we had batteries installed, what would happen is once the batteries are full, the panels would turn off and they would just go through the floor and they just disappear. Because they've got nowhere to put the energy. So it's really important that off-grid is you learn to work with nature. And if you can do your washing of a day, I've got customers that run dryers of a day, they just do it of a day in sunlight hours. The problem with the dryer, the reality is off-grid, is when you really want to use your dryer, it's pouring down rain. So, it's one of those things that when the sun's out, why put in the dryer hanging out the clothesline, little things like that. So, personally at home, we have a heat pump dryer at home. And, they're a bit of a catch-22. They are really energy efficient, but they also take 5 hours to dry up your clothes. So we've been doing some tests and stuff with the heat pump, which I actually think it's no, it's not one of those PowerPoints. So yeah, we've been using the heat pump, doing some tests, and yeah, they're really energy efficient, but it takes so much longer to dry your clothes. So it's just really understand what uses energy, so it's basically when to use it. I think a lot of people, when it's raining, and it's one of those things when you see a lot of people say, oh, today was really sunny, or the sun was out. It wasn't sunny, but the sun was out. If you can look at the sun, like if you can actually physically look at the sun, there's no usable power in it, basically. So that's how I sort of determine over a day of how much usable energy is coming from the sun. If you can actually look up at the sky and you can look at the sun without squinting, there's really no usable power in the sun, basically what it comes down to. So, and it's those days about working with nature when it's cloudy, overcast, and things are not producing. Off-grid, unless you just want to start a generator, you really just can't keep doing what you do. That's the reality, and a lot of people don't want to run a generator and use their backup sources. So that's what it sort of comes down to, is understanding what uses energy and when to use it. On those rainy, cloudy, overcast days, don't use as much energy than you normally would.
It's I'm just thinking, for anybody that's interested, the off-grid story that's going to be published on the Off-Grid Kitchen this Saturday actually speaks to a lot of this stuff.
Yep.
And Melissa talks about when she runs her dishwasher, when she runs her washing machine, and it's all like, say, in winter at the moment, they have a certain time of day where they'll do it when it's optimum and the sun's up and it's time to do it. Because exactly, it is. It's working with nature. It's kind of just tuning in and learning, like, all your systems kind of align with each other.
Yeah, it's one of those things like with off-grid that, yeah, if you just want everything to work normally like it does with the grid, you could say if you had endless money, you could make that happen without using generators, but that's not true. There's always going to be. The only way I reckon you can live 100% renewable is if you have a creek with a good flow. You can have a hydro pump and you've got wind. I think that's the only way you could pretty much be 100% self-sufficient on hydros. If you've got water, you can run a hydro pump because you've always got that constant flow of water. And it's sort of that balance as well, because when it's raining in bad weather, you've got water to charge your batteries. And when your creeks are dry and you've got no water, it's normally really sunny, so your solar system's working. So,
yeah. But it depends too, because I know everybody's different. But for me, the whole off-grid, the deeper philosophy of it, or one of the natural benefits of it is that it actually it's kind of pulling us back more to work with nature. It's pulling us back more to kind of understand that thing that this endless this endless consumption, it actually isn't beneficial for the whole planet. There is a finite system and we need to learn how to work within that. And I think off-grid living really puts you back in that position of understanding that and being responsible to it. That's the deeper philosophy of it, which I think is great. I mean, some people don't feel like that, but that's the beauty of, I guess, this channel and this program is that there's a whole lot of diverse opinions and people living in diverse ways.
Yep. Yeah, look, this year when Sarah and I decided to get rid of the batteries at home and, made the decision that we have blackouts from time to time, we just said, we'll just get the camp gear out, and we literally, it's great. We get the rocket stove out, a cool rocket stove. We got the Delta, the EcoFlow, which I know there's some videos coming out of that there. It's amazing, we literally, the biggest thing for us is when it's raining and no power, the kids have internet.
I thought you were going to say the kids have fun.
No, yeah.
They must have loved doing the camping style inside. I used to love doing that.
It is, and it's just like, for me, that's you see a lot of people that are that love camping, that four-wheel driving style. When they have blackouts, that's just get the fridge going and they just go on with life, and that's to me that's what it's about. So I really enjoy those times of getting the camp gear out, cooking, and having this sort of fun. So yeah.
So I think that's really great. So the idea is just to understand what in your home uses power, and if you're off grid, when the best time to use those appliances is. And so next week we can talk more about specific appliances.
100%, yeah. It's just, it's a very common question. I get like 14 hours of sun a day all year round, and it's like you get 14 hours of light, but it's very different to the usable power that you can get. So, it's one of those things years ago, and someone singing in the morning. I think Pete Evans has gone on crazy like this once. But if you look at the sun in the morning and of an afternoon when it's setting without your glasses and stuff, it'll help fix your eyes. And better after I got back. But it is, you sun first thing in the morning. It's above the horizon, you can look at it of an afternoon without squinting. But the minute it comes up and it's got that usable power in it, which is so interesting, not until 10 or 11 o'clock, you can look at the sun before you need to start squinting. And that's when it's got the usable power in it. I think a lot of people are like, there's daylight out, so I should be able to use my solar system or have usable power there, but it's not always true.
This is interesting because Melissa was talking about her PV system and saying that because it's light-based, even on a full moon, it would be generating something, power.
Solar, inverters, they do light up on a full moon. It's interesting. A decent amount of power that's usable. Because the moon is just a reflection of the sun.
Yeah.
It's what we're sort of seeing. So, regulators and things light up on full moon. You have to crank up. So, but I've not seen one yet. There's enough usable power to do something, So, they light up and they say they're doing anything, but it's pretty much creating enough energy to,
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Mike.
Awesome. No, it's So yes, for the next week, we'll definitely go into deep dive with some appliances and some energy efficient appliances, and that is the key, is to really learn to understand what appliances use what energy, and the best money you will spend in any of this is always energy efficient appliances.
Yeah.
So, cool.
Great. Chat to you next week.
Sounds good, mate. Talk to you then.
See ya.